You are driving down a quiet, wooded country road. The landscape is entirely composed of organic greens, earthy browns, and the soft textures of nature. And then suddenly, it appears, a massive, perfectly geometric semicircular arch, and it is completely, unapologetically, matte black. It is visually arresting. It looks like a shadow that has taken a physical, three-dimensional form. But as you get closer, you realize that this imposing, monolithic structure is not a bunker, it's not an industrial warehouse, it's a home. And not just any home, it is the most talked about, highly sought-after architectural hybrid of the year 2026. Welcome to the era of the matte black Dogtrot Quonset hut. In 2026, the design has evolved, it has grown up. Architects and high-end designers have taken this humble, budget-friendly steel tube and elevated it into a luxurious aesthetic. They have banished the shiny, cheap-looking silver galvanized steel. They have embraced the dark. Today, we are going to explore exactly why the blacked-out Dogtrot Quonset is dominating the architectural landscape. We will break down the brilliant exterior detailing, explore the fascinating physics of how to keep a black metal box from turning into an oven, and walk step by step through an interior design strategy that turns this dark fortress into a glowing, warm sanctuary.
Let's address the most obvious question first. Why black? Why take a massive piece of steel and paint it the darkest color possible? In architectural theory, black is the color of absence. When you paint a massive structure matte black, a fascinating visual illusion occurs. Because the flat paint absorbs the light rather than reflecting it, the building loses its visual weight. It stops competing with the landscape. If you build a bright white house or a shiny silver metal building in the middle of a forest, the house screams for attention. It is a visual interruption. But a matte black structure actually recedes into the shadows of the tree line. It frames the natural world around it. When you look at a black house surrounded by nature, the green of the trees, the blue of the sky, and the brown of the earth all look infinitely more vibrant and saturated. The black Quonset hut is the ultimate expression of modern minimalism. It is confident, it is silent, and it is incredibly sleek. The corrugated ridges of the steel arch create subtle vertical shadow lines that change as the sun moves across the sky. But painting a house black is a massive commitment. You cannot hide any flaws. The geometry of the building has to be perfect, and the Quonset hut, with its flawless, sweeping, unbroken curve, provides the perfect canvas for this dramatic architectural blackout.
If you build a massive black steel tube and leave it completely bare, it is going to look like a sinister military hangar. To make it feel like a luxury home, you have to break up the monolith. You have to introduce contrasting materials to add warmth, texture, and humanity to the design. In a Quonset hut, the sides of the building are entirely curved steel, but the front and back of the building, the end walls, are completely flat, vertical spaces. This is where the architectural magic happens. In 2026, the premier choice for these end walls is wood, but not just any wood. Designers are heavily utilizing a traditional Japanese technique called Shou Sugi Ban. This is the process of deliberately charring the exterior surface of the wood with a massive torch. The fire burns away the soft cellulose, leaving behind a deep, rich, blackened layer of carbon that is naturally resistant to water, fire, and insects. When you pair the smooth, matte black of the curved steel with the heavily textured alligator skin look of the charred Shou Sugi Ban timber, the effect is breathtaking. It is black on black, but the varying textures create a deep, sophisticated visual rhythm. Alternatively, for a higher contrast look, many designers opt for warm, natural woods. Imagine the massive black steel arch, but the entire flat front wall is clad in horizontal strips of glowing natural western red cedar or clear-coated white oak. The deep orange and yellow tones of the natural wood pop aggressively against the black steel, instantly making the structure feel warm, inviting, and residential. And then there is the glass. A black house needs light. The flat end walls of these modern Quonsets are often completely glazed. Massive floor-to-ceiling windows with black anodized aluminum frames stretch all the way up to the curved ceiling. These giant walls of glass reflect the clouds and the trees, making the heavy black structure feel surprisingly light and transparent.
Now, let's walk into the defining feature of the home, the central Dogtrot breezeway. In a traditional Quonset hut, walking through the front door means you are immediately inside. But in the Dogtrot layout, you walk through the arch and you are still outside. You are in a massive, covered, windswept tunnel that divides the home into two separate pavilions. Because the exterior of the house is so dark and imposing, the breezeway must act as a glowing lantern. When you look at the house at night, a black exterior completely disappears into the dark sky, and all you see is this brilliantly lit, warm, curved tunnel floating in the middle of the woods. To achieve this, the interior walls of the breezeway, the walls that face each other, are almost never painted black. They are clad in bright, warm materials. Tongue-and-groove pine, smooth white plaster, or natural stone are used to bounce the light around. In 2026, this breezeway is not just an empty hallway, it is the ultimate indoor-outdoor living room. Because the heavy steel arch protects you from the rain and the baking sun, this space is utilized year-round. On one side of the breezeway, you will typically find an elaborate outdoor kitchen. We are talking matte black stainless steel grills, poured concrete countertops, and an integrated pizza oven, all sheltered perfectly under the curve of the roof. On the opposite side, a sprawling dining table crafted from a single live-edge slab of dark walnut, surrounded by comfortable seating. Many high-end builds are now incorporating smart climate technology into the breezeway. Motorized black aluminum louvers can be lowered at either end of the tunnel to block harsh winter winds. Radiant heating coils are embedded directly into the concrete floor, so even on a chilly autumn evening, the ground radiates a gentle warmth, allowing you to sit outside in a t-shirt while a storm rages just a few feet away.
There is a massive trap that people fall into when designing a black house. They think that because the exterior is dark, industrial, and edgy, the interior needs to be dark, industrial, and edgy too. They leave the steel exposed, they use black furniture, and they paint the walls dark gray. Unless your goal is to live in a nightclub or a supervillain's lair, this is a terrible idea. The psychological power of a black Dogtrot Quonset hut relies entirely on contrast. The exterior is meant to be a tough, armored, weatherproof shell. The interior is meant to be the soft, vulnerable, glowing heart protected within that shell. When you step out of the breezeway and into the enclosed living pavilion, you should feel an immediate sense of relief and comfort. The current design trend for these interiors perfectly blends Scandinavian Higa with the emerging Burrow-core aesthetic. First, we hide the curve. While some people like the look of exposed corrugated steel inside, high-end 2026 designs use a drop ceiling technique to frame out and drywall the interior curve. The harsh 90-degree angle where the wall meets the ceiling is completely eliminated. Instead, the wall sweeps seamlessly upward into the ceiling in one massive, continuous, organic arch. To soften the space further, these curved walls are treated with natural, creamy white Roman clay or lime wash plaster. The texture of the plaster diffuses the natural light pouring in from the massive glass end walls, making the room literally glow. The floors are typically cast in a light polished concrete or covered in wide plank pale European oak. The furniture is kept low to the ground to emphasize the soaring height of the arched ceiling. Deep, overstuffed sectional sofas, upholstered in nubby, cream-colored boucle or warm caramel leather, anchor the living room. Lighting is strictly controlled. Because you are inside a curve, harsh overhead recessed lighting creates strain, unflattering shadows. Instead, designers use upward-facing wall sconces to bounce warm amber light off the curved plaster ceiling, creating a soft, ambient glow that feels exactly like sitting inside a luxurious, modern cave. You have the indestructible black steel armor on the outside and the incredibly soft, warm, acoustic sanctuary on the inside. It is the ultimate architectural balance.
Designing the floor plan inside a curved building requires a very specific approach. You do not have standard vertical exterior walls to push tall furniture against. But the Dogtrot layout solves the biggest spatial challenge of the Quonset hut simply by dividing the house in half. By utilizing the central open breezeway, you naturally divide the home into two highly distinct psychological zones, the active pavilion and the quiet pavilion. Let's start with the active pavilion. This side of the house contains your kitchen, your dining room, and your main living area. Because the Quonset has no internal load-bearing walls, the entire roof is supported by the exterior steel arch, this entire pavilion can be completely open concept. The kitchen is usually placed against the flat vertical end wall, allowing for tall cabinetry and full-size appliances. The massive kitchen island looks out over the open living room, facing the interior glass wall that looks directly out into the central breezeway. When you are cooking dinner, you can look through the glass, across the open-air patio, and see the other half of your home. Now, you walk out of the kitchen, cross the outdoor breezeway, and open the door to the quiet pavilion. This side of the house is strictly dedicated to rest. It contains the master suite, the guest bedrooms, and the primary bathrooms. By physically detaching the bedrooms from the kitchen and the living room, you achieve the ultimate luxury, absolute acoustic privacy. If someone is watching a loud movie, hosting a dinner party, or running the blender in the active pavilion, the sound absolutely cannot travel into the quiet pavilion. The sound waves are completely disrupted by the outdoor air of the breezeway. For couples with different sleep schedules or families who value deep, undisturbed rest, this physical separation is an absolute game changer. You are living under one massive continuous black roof, but your daily life is perfectly compartmentalized.